The 18th century, an age of exploration. European powers sent ships across the globe. Among these explorers, one name stands out: Captain James Cook. Cook's 3 voyages spanning the Pacific Ocean were groundbreaking. He charted coastlines, discovered new islands, and encountered diverse cultures. His journeys reshaped the world map. Cook's legacy is complex and multifaceted. He is celebrated for his navigational skill, his scientific contributions, and his meticulous record-keeping. His journals and maps provided invaluable insights into the Pacific. However, Cook's voyages also ushered in an era of colonialism. His arrival in the Pacific had a profound impact on indigenous populations. The consequences of his encounters are still felt today. This is the story of Captain James Cook. The year was 1728. In the quaint village of Marton, Yorkshire, a son was born to James and Grace Cook. They named him James after his father. The Cooks were a humble family. James Sr. toiled as a farm laborer. Young James's childhood was simple, shaped by the rhythms of rural life. At the age of 16, this fascination led James to the nearby coastal town of Whitby. This marked the beginning of Cook's life at sea. Life aboard the Walker's coal ships was tough. The work was demanding, the conditions harsh. Yet, Cook embraced the challenges. He learned the ways of the sea, mastering the skills of seamanship and navigation. Cook's natural intelligence and work ethic did not go unnoticed. He quickly rose through the ranks, gaining experience and responsibility. Beyond his practical duties, Cook possessed a thirst for knowledge that extended beyond the deck of a coal ship. He devoted his free hours to studying mathematics, astronomy, and cartography. In 1755, Cook enlisted in the Royal Navy. The year was 1768. The place, Plymouth, England. A ship was being prepared for a voyage unlike any other. This was HMS Endeavour, a sturdy bark built for the rough seas of the North Sea. At the helm was Lieutenant James Cook. Cook's mission was twofold: observe the transit of Venus and search for Terra Australis Incognita. The Endeavour was a vessel crammed with supplies, scientific instruments, and a crew of skilled seamen, scientists, and artists. Among them was Joseph Banks, a wealthy young naturalist. The stage was set for a voyage of discovery that would change the face of the world. After months at sea, the Endeavour arrived at Tahiti in April 1769. Cook oversaw the construction of an observatory. On June 3, the transit of Venus occurred. Cook and his team recorded the event with precision. Cook established a rapport with the Tahitian people, learning their language and customs. With the transit of Venus observed, Cook opened sealed orders to search for the southern continent. The Endeavour sailed south and west, encountering fierce storms. In October 1769, they sighted land New Zealand. Cook had made landfall on the islands that would later be known as New Zealand. Cook spent 6 months charting the coastline of New Zealand. He interacted with the indigenous Maori people. With New Zealand meticulously mapped, Cook turned the Endeavour westward. In April 1770, they sighted the east coast of Australia. Cook meticulously recorded the flora, fauna, and people of this new land. Strange creatures hopped through the bush, and the native people presented a new challenge. Cook's journals and maps provided a window into a world previously unknown to Europeans. The Endeavour continued her westward journey, hugging the Australian coastline. Cook and his crew marveled at the unfamiliar sights. But this unexplored paradise held hidden dangers. As the Endeavour sailed northward, the water grew shallow and treacherous. On a moonless night, disaster struck. The Endeavour ran aground on a coral reef. Cook rallied his men, directing their efforts with authority and encouragement. For days the crew worked tirelessly, patching the hull and manning the pumps. Their efforts paid off. The Endeavour was refloated and repaired. Cook continued charting the Australian coastline, claiming it for the British Crown. Their journey continued into the vast Pacific. Cook guided his ship through storms, discovering new islands. Some were volcanic, others fringed with coral reefs. Each island held the promise of discovery. Cook's second voyage, aboard the HMS Resolution, was even more ambitious. Determined to reach latitudes no European had reached before, he set his sights south. The Resolution battled through storms and navigated treacherous ice floes. The crew endured the psychological strain of isolation and the threat of hypothermia. In January 1773 they crossed the Antarctic Circle. Though they found no new continent, their journey was far from fruitless. They discovered new islands and made groundbreaking observations. Cook's second voyage shattered the illusion of a temperate southern continent. Cook's voyages were not just about charting coastlines. They were also about encounters with people. In the Society Islands, Cook found a Polynesian people living in a society structured by kinship and respect. The Tahitians welcomed the British with open arms. Cook meticulously documented their customs and language. Further south in New Zealand, the encounters were different. The Maori viewed the British arrival with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. Gifts were a central part of these first encounters. Cook and his crew came bearing trinkets, tools, and cloth. But what seemed valuable to the British could hold different meanings for the indigenous peoples. Misunderstandings arose from language barriers and different ways of perceiving the world. What one culture considered polite, another might find offensive. What one culture valued as treasure, another might view as mere trinkets. As the initial wonder of first contact wore off, the reality of the power imbalance became apparent. Cook, though often genuinely interested in understanding the cultures he encountered, was also a man of his time. The British arrival brought diseases that ravaged the indigenous populations. The demand for resources strained the islands. The presence of the British disrupted traditional ways of life. These encounters were a microcosm of a larger historical process, the collision of cultures. They were a clash of worlds, a meeting of minds separated by vast gulfs of experience and power. The year was 1776. Captain James Cook, now a seasoned explorer with 2 successful voyages under his belt, embarked on his third and final expedition into the vast Pacific. He was no longer a young lieutenant eager to prove himself, but a seasoned captain, his name synonymous with discovery and daring. This voyage would take him further north than ever before, to the icy waters of the Bering Strait, in search of the elusive Northwest Passage, a sea route that would connect the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans through the Arctic archipelago. But fate, as it so often does, had other plans. On his way north, Cook's ships, the Resolution and the Discovery, made an unexpected stop. Drawn by the sight of lush green islands rising from the sea, they dropped anchor off the coast of what would later be known as the Hawaiian Islands. The Hawaiians, who had never before encountered Europeans, were both curious and cautious about these strange visitors with their white sails and booming cannons. Cook and his crew were greeted with a mixture of awe and apprehension. The Hawaiians, adorned with flowers and bearing gifts of food, welcomed them to their shores. Cook, ever the diplomat, took pains to establish friendly relations, exchanging gifts and observing the customs of these hospitable people. The Hawaiians held Cook in high regard, believing him to be a manifestation of Lano, their god of fertility and peace. This reverence would prove to be a double-edged sword. Tensions began to rise as Cook and his crew lingered. Misunderstandings over stolen goods escalated into conflict. Cultural differences and language barriers fueled suspicion. The image of peaceful coexistence shattered. In February 1779, Cook went ashore to confront the Hawaiians about a theft. The standoff quickly spiraled into violence. Cook was struck down, his lifeblood staining the sand red. The details remain shrouded in confusion. Captain James Cook met his end in a sudden, violent encounter far from his homeland. His death sent shockwaves through Europe. The great explorer had fallen victim to misunderstanding, anger, and cultural clash. His voyages expanded the map of the world, revealing the complexities and dangers of cultural encounters. Captain James Cook's voyages redrew the map of the world and expanded the notion of what was possible. His meticulous observations and ability to navigate uncharted waters left an indelible mark on history. Cook's charts became invaluable tools for future explorers. But Cook's legacy is not without its shadows. His arrival marked the beginning of a new era, altering the balance of indigenous cultures. The introduction of diseases and Western values left a lasting impact. Cook's story is a reminder that exploration is rarely simple. It is a complex tapestry woven from ambition, curiosity, and power. Cook's voyages exposed cultural misunderstandings and the tragic consequences of such encounters. In the end, Cook's legacy is a testament to the human spirit of exploration and a cautionary tale of unintended consequences.